Have you ever felt the weight of someone else's negativity pressing down on your shoulders the moment you dared to dream a little bigger? Have you ever caught yourself hesitating just for an instant because a voice that wasn't even yours told you you weren't capable? I want you to remember that feeling. Hold on to it for just a moment, because tonight we're not merely talking about removing obstacles from our path. We're talking about reclaiming the energy that fuels our growth. We're talking about stepping into our own power unapologetically. And that begins when we recognize the people who sabotage us, sometimes subtly, sometimes loudly, and learn to silently yet firmly cut them off, not out of hate, not out of bitterness, but out of wisdom. Because a wise person understands what's at stake: their potential, their peace, their purpose. A wise person knows that time is precious, and it's downright foolish to let anyone else steal it away or poison it with doubt. A wise person also knows that sometimes the biggest obstacles to personal expansion aren't the big, blatant antagonists, but the quiet, consistent drips of toxic energy that slowly corrode our resolve. When we talk about silently cutting people off, it might sound harsh, but it's actually a profound act of self-respect. It says I value my journey enough to walk it with authenticity, to guard my goals, and to protect my mind from unnecessary noise. It says I trust my instincts enough to know when the company I keep is undermining the person I'm working so hard to become. Look around you right now. Look at your life, your dreams, the battles you've fought, and the victories you've achieved. Every bit of success, every ounce of growth comes from your willingness to put in the work day after day, sometimes under a hailstorm of criticism. And there are people, maybe even people you considered close, who chipped away at your confidence you didn't waste and didn't even notice until it was almost too late. They manipulated your hope or dismissed your desire to break out of the ordinary to be extraordinary. It could be that friend who's always just joking when they belittle your ambitions, or the coworker who drops seemingly harmless comments whenever you share a new idea, or even that family member who insists they know what's best for you while ignoring your real passion. Tonight, we're going to put the microscope on 5 types of people who quietly drag us down. We're going to name them, expose their methods, and discover the consequences of allowing them to remain in our inner circle. Then, most importantly, we'll learn how to recognize them early and how to distance ourselves without turning life into a battlefield. Because this isn't about hating anyone. This isn't about burning bridges. This is about protecting our temple, our mind, our heart, our spirit, so we can continue to serve the purpose we were destined for. When we talk about destiny, we're talking about that pull, that vision, that dream you have in your heart that won't let you sleep. You deserve to walk in the direction of that dream with your head held high, unafraid and unashamed of who you are. But certain people, if left unchecked, will chip away at that dream, sometimes so subtly you don't even realize it until your motivation is gone. Tonight, we reclaim that motivation. And we do so by recognizing that it's okay to set boundaries. It's okay to distance ourselves from energies that kill our focus. And it's absolutely okay to choose growth over comfort. So get ready. Because when we lay out these 5 types of people, a wise person silently cuts off. I want you to look within your own relationships. Ask yourself, do I see these warning signs? Have I been giving too much of my light to only reflect darkness back at me? If yes, then it's time. Time to stand in your truth. Time to lovingly but firmly say, I can't afford to jeopardize my calling because the stakes are too high. Your peace is too vital. Your future is too important. And my friends, your spirit, your beautiful, determined spirit is far too precious to be sacrificed at the altar of someone else's negativity. So let's dive into these 5 types of people. Let's see what lurks beneath their attitudes, how they set us back, and how we can break free with grace. We do this not just to be free from negativity, but to make space for something bigger, bolder, and brighter in our lives. Because greatness demands an environment that nurtures it. It demands that you protect the flame within you. And sometimes the only way to nurture your inner flame is to cut off the draft that threatens to snuff it out. I'm asking you to lean in. I'm asking you to keep your heart and mind open, because tonight is not about blame or shame. It's about transformation. And transformation takes courage. Are you ready? Let's talk first about the constant complainer. We've all met them. They greet you each morning with an avalanche of negativity. Grumblings about work, about the weather, about life in general. And before you've even had your coffee, you're drowning in their sea of complaints. Their complaints become the opening act of every conversation, like an unwanted soundtrack that plays on repeat, draining your energy. A wise person recognizes that complaining is contagious. You might think you're immune. You might tell yourself you can shrug off their negativity. But over time, it starts to seep into your own thinking. You catch yourself rolling your eyes more often, sighing in defeat more quickly, finding reasons why things won't work instead of searching for how they can. That's the subtle poison at play. The danger of the constant complainer isn't just in their words, it's in the perspective they bring. They can drag you into a mental space where problems overshadow solutions. You begin to expect disappointment instead of bracing for victory. You become more skeptical of new ideas. You start second guessing your capacity to push through challenges. And once that happens, your spirit of innovation, your spark of optimism flickers. Think of how crucial that optimism is to your success. It fuels your willingness to try, to fail, to get back up. Without optimism, every failure feels final. Every day feels heavier. Hope gets replaced by dread. And that's precisely why, when a wise person senses that constant drip of negativity, they take action. Silently, without fanfare, they draw a boundary. They limit the phone calls, the lunch breaks, the casual catch-ups that become complaint sessions. Because they understand that you can't outrun someone else's gloom forever. It sticks if you let it. So how do you see it coming? Pay attention to how you feel after interacting with someone. Are you inspired or are you drained? Do you feel weighed down by their words? Do you find yourself searching for silver linings on their behalf, only to realize they don't even want them? That's your red flag. That's your signal it's time to reposition yourself. Now, Does that mean you abandon a friend at the first sign of negativity? No. We all have bad days. We all need a little grace. But constant complaining is a pattern. It's a habit. And if it's not changing, if it's become their default mode, then cutting them off might be the only way to preserve your own enthusiasm. The lesson here is simple: complaining changes nothing. Action does. And surrounding yourself with complainers, no matter how genuine your intentions, can trap you in a cycle of inaction and defeat. A wise person refuses to sacrifice their forward momentum. They'd rather keep their mind focused on what's possible, not on what's wrong. And if that means distancing themselves from someone who always sees the glass as half empty, so be it. Because your future is too bright, too valuable to be dimmed by endless negativity. And once you master this boundary, you'll find yourself more energized, more open to possibilities, and ready to greet each day with a fighting spirit. That's where you want to be. That's how you launch yourself toward your dreams. Next up is the chronic doubter, the one who seems ready to cast a shadow of uncertainty over your boldest ideas. You've probably heard their lines. Are you sure that's a good idea? Don't you think that's a bit risky? Maybe they're a friend. Maybe they're a family member who thinks they're protecting you from failure. But here's the truth: doubt is like a slow, corrosive drip on your confidence. You can be on fire with excitement about a new project, a new path, a new dream. And then this person steps in with their carefully packaged question marks. They call themselves realistic. But realism can quickly turn to defeatism in the hands of the wrong people. A wise person knows that dreams require a certain level of faith. Faith in one's ability to adapt, to learn, to rise when challenged. Faith in the unseen potential that only reveals itself when you commit to the journey. Chronic doubters undermine that faith. They plant seeds of hesitation right when you need to be all in. Over time, your motivation wanes. You start seeing obstacles instead of opportunities. You start hearing their voice in your own head. Maybe they're right. Maybe I should play it safe. And once you shrink your aspirations to appease their skepticism, you rob yourself of the breakthroughs you might have achieved. Realize that in every major success story, there was a moment of blind belief. A moment when logic took a backseat to possibility, and the person said, "Why not me?" Chronic doubters hate that question. They want you to ask, "Why me?" They want you to second guess. They may mean well, but their worldview is constrained. And if you're not careful, they'll pass that limitation on to you. How do you spot them? Listen for the "I'm just looking out for you" excuse paired with an almost automatic list of negatives every time you share a vision. Notice how they rarely offer genuine solutions, only reasons you shouldn't try. That's not guidance, that's sabotage. They might disguise it as caution, but caution can become the cage that keeps you from ever taking flight. The consequences of letting these chronic doubters remain in your close circle are profound. You might abandon a dream that was just one more risk away from blossoming. You might grow resentful of your own life choices because you never discovered your true potential. And the worst part, if you fail to live out your calling, the regret will eat at you. You'll wonder what might have been if you hadn't let their doubts colonize your mind. So how do you cut them off silently and respectfully? You learn to guard your dreams. You share less of your aspirations with those who only respond with negativity. You limit how much influence they have on your decision making. You might still love them. You might still see them at family gatherings, but you protect your vision like it's precious cargo. You don't give them front row seats to your process because they haven't earned that access. By doing this, you're not shutting out honest feedback. You're shutting out paralyzing cynicism. And guess what? When you create that distance, you give yourself permission to dream bigger, to fail forward, and to let your faith grow into something unshakable. That's the power of cutting off the chronic doubter. A wise person doesn't let the world rob them of their fearless creativity. They quietly say, "Thank you for your concern," then keep marching forward, because your goals are too critical to be derailed by someone who can't imagine your success. Third is the secret competitor. Maybe you know who they are, maybe you don't. They might smile to your face, laugh at your jokes, and congratulate you in public. But deep down, they're not happy about your wins. They see your progress as a threat. They measure their worth by outdoing you. They might try to overshadow your achievements, twist your successes into flukes, or withhold information that could help you excel. These are the people who treat life like a zero-sum game. If you win, they lose. They can't stand to see you shine. A wise person recognizes that real growth happens in communities that lift each other up. When you're surrounded by genuine supporters, each success is celebrated and each failure is met with empathy and encouragement. But with the secret competitor, you get the opposite. You sense tension when you share good news. You feel their energy shift. They might find subtle ways to criticize you when you do well. Or they might conveniently forget to invite you to that meeting or pass on that crucial piece of advice that would have given you the upper hand. Their hidden agenda is to keep you within reach so they can measure your progress as theirs. Yet they secretly hope you stumble just so they can feel better about themselves. This dynamic is toxic because it hinders authentic collaboration. You start withholding ideas, suspecting they might use them against you. You hold back on celebrating successes because you don't want to provoke envy or sabotage. And once you're in that space, you're never fully at ease. You can't bring your whole self into any project or relationship that involves them. Anxiety creeps in. Trust evaporates. The result: you're distracted, constantly looking over your shoulder. Your creativity suffers. Your focus shifts from creating impact to surviving politics. Over time, that can sap your joy and your motivation. A wise person sees these warning signs and quietly steps back. They stop sharing their deepest plans with the secret competitor. They find other networks, other mentors, other allies who want to see them thrive. They don't announce a big breakup. They just gradually stop feeding that relationship. So how do you know you're dealing with a secret competitor? Pay attention to how they react to your achievements. Pay attention to whether they're eager to collaborate or if they hold back. Notice if they always frame your accomplishments as lesser than or if they frame their own successes to dwarf yours. If you keep hearing backhanded compliments, pay attention. That's not admiration, that's mass competition. The lesson here is that iron sharpens iron, but only when both parties are genuinely supportive. If one side is secretly chipping away at the blade, you end up dull instead of sharp. And you have too much potential to let that happen. So cut them off. Create space. Find people who rejoice when you win. Seek out those who challenge you to become better without trying to outdo you at every turn. Because healthy competition is awesome. It pushes you to excel. But toxic competition is like a parasite. It feeds on your energy until you have nothing left to give. A wise person quietly chooses liberation instead. They keep pushing. Keep learning, keep evolving, and leave the secret competitor behind. Because your true competition is not the person next to you. Your real competition is the version of yourself you were yesterday. And that, my friends, is who you want to outdo every single day. Fourth, let's talk about the emotional manipulator. This is the person who guilt trips you for setting boundaries, who twists your words, who turns every conversation into an emotional labyrinth. One moment, they act like a victim, pulling your sympathy in. The next, they're dictating your choices through subtle threats or silent treatment. They might say they love you or they need you, but the way they show it suffocates your spirit. You feel obligated to please them, to tiptoe around their triggers, to shrink your own voice so you don't upset them. That's a level of control that a wise person refuses to tolerate. Emotional manipulators derail your progress by hijacking your mental and emotional energy. Instead of focusing on your goals, you end up trying to solve their constant crisis or appease their endless demands. You feel guilty when you stand up for yourself. You second guess whether your aspirations are selfish. You might even think, maybe I should settle. Maybe I'm being unreasonable. But that's the manipulator's design. They want you to believe that your success, your independence, your boundaries are harmful or disloyal. They want you tangled in their web so that your focus is on them, not on your own destiny. Over time, this dynamic can become crippling. Your self-esteem takes a hit. You doubt your own perceptions. You become addicted to their approval, forgetting that your life is your own. The consequences are profound. You lose your voice, your vision, and your vitality. You walk on eggshells, never quite sure what mood they'll be in. And you sacrifice precious opportunities because you're too drained to seize them. A wise person steps back and sees the pattern. They understand that manipulation, no matter how it's justified, is a theft of personal freedom. So they resolve to cut off that manipulator, or at the very least, drastically limit contact. They don't announce it with banners. They just quietly withdraw from the toxicity. They regain control of their choices, their schedule, their emotional well-being. If the manipulator tries to reel them back in with guilt or emotional blackmail, they stand firm. Why? Because they know the cost of letting that poison remain in their life. They know that no dream can flourish in a soil full of deceit and manipulation. So watch for the telltale signs. Do you feel anxious every time this person calls? Do you feel you owe them something you can't quite define? Do you find yourself apologizing for things that aren't your fault just to keep the peace. That's a clue. That's your sign that it's time to preserve your sanity and your destiny. When you escape that emotional quicksand, you rediscover what real healthy connection looks like. You find clarity. You find peace. And you have the emotional bandwidth to chase your ambitions with a fresh spirit. That's the payoff. That's why cutting off an emotional manipulator is an act of self-love. A wise person chooses self-love over the illusions that a manipulator crafts. Because you deserve genuine relationships that fuel your journey, not stifle it. Lastly, we have the parasitic user. The person who only shows up when they need something. They're never there to reciprocate, never there to lend a hand or even cheer you on. They drain your resources, your time, your energy, your money, without any intention of giving back. It might be subtle at first. Maybe they always need a favor, always need to borrow something, always expect you to go the extra mile. You might do it willingly, thinking it's just a season or they're truly in a bind. But eventually you notice a pattern. When the tables turn, when you need support, they vanish. Excuses pile up like dead leaves in the fall. They're too busy, too broke, too caught up in their own drama to be there for you. A wise person recognizes that true relationships involve mutual exchange and respect. The parasitic user doesn't respect you. They exploit you. They might flatter you to keep you engaged, or they might guilt you with stories of how they have no one else. They might promise they'll repay you soon or return the favor next time. But next time never comes. Over time, your resources are depleted. You find yourself exhausted, financially strained, or just plain resentful. And here's the kicker. A parasitic user doesn't care about your sacrifices. They only care about what more they can get. That's a tough pill to swallow, especially if you have a generous heart. But generosity without discernment can wreck your future. It can keep you too broke, emotionally or financially, to invest in your own calling. The cost is too high. So how do you cut them off? First, you learn to say no. No explanations, no apologies, just a firm boundary. If they respond with anger or manipulation, that confirms exactly what they value you for. Second, you stop expecting them to be someone they're not. You accept that this is who they choose to be, and you don't let them guilt you into continuing the cycle. You might lose that connection entirely, but that loss is a blessing in disguise. It frees up your emotional and mental real estate. It frees up your schedule to focus on people who genuinely appreciate you. And it protects you from the slow drain that keeps you from pursuing the opportunities that matter most. Because make no mistake, every time you say yes to someone unworthy of your time, you're saying no to your own priorities. Let that sink in. The lesson is simple. You can't build a solid future if you're constantly sapped by someone who refuses to give back. A wise person knows that healthy relationships have balance. You give and you take. You support and you receive support. That's how you grow together. Anything else is a one-sided drain. And once you sever that cord, you'll be amazed at how much lighter you feel. You'll find new energy to chase your goals, new room to form beneficial connections, and a renewed sense of confidence. Because you're no longer someone's doormat. You're the architect of your destiny. Now, let's wrap this all together. We've looked at 5 types of people who can quietly derail us from our path. The constant complainer, the chronic doubter, the secret competitor, the emotional manipulator, and the parasitic user. Each one has a sneaky way of undermining our progress. Each one can rob us of our passion, our clarity, our sense of worth. When we let them linger in our lives, either out of fear, misplaced loyalty, or simple unawareness, we pay a steep price. We pay in lost opportunities, diminished self-esteem, drained energy, and stunted growth. But here's the beauty of wisdom. It empowers you to make bold, decisive choices in the name of self-preservation and advancement. It allows you to recognize these toxic patterns early and remove them before they bury themselves too deep. A wise person doesn't need to wage a loud war. They simply step back quietly and deliberately. Why quietly? Because this isn't about punishing someone or seeking revenge. It's about protecting your own space so that you can continue to evolve, to build and to serve your higher calling. The world needs what you have to offer. It needs your gifts, your passion, your unique outlook on life. Imagine the projects you'll create, the dreams you'll realize, the lives you'll touch when you're fully free from these toxic ties. Think about the doors that will open when your energy is no longer hijacked by those who don't respect it. Picture the relationships you'll form with those who celebrate your successes and push you to become the best version of yourself. That's the future that becomes possible when you make the choice. I will no longer allow these 5 types of people to drain my life. And I want you to make that choice tonight because I believe in you. I believe in your capacity to break cycles, to overcome doubts, to rise above limitations. Each one of us has the power to transform our environment by first transforming the standards we set for the relationships in our circle. If a connection doesn't nurture your journey, if it doesn't respect your boundaries, if it doesn't honor your growth, you have every right to walk away. Not angrily, not spitefully, but confidently and quietly, knowing you're doing what's necessary. Is it scary? Sometimes, yes. Is it lonely? It might feel like it at first, but real growth often requires pruning away what no longer serves us. And in that space, something better can take root. That's where you find genuine partnerships, loyal friendships, supportive mentors, and like-minded visionaries who see in you what the toxic ones never did. Brid possibilities and unstoppable strength. Don't ever apologize for protecting your light. Don't ever feel guilty for cutting off what dims you. Because the moment you shrink for someone else's comfort, you're compromising the very purpose for which you were created. And I'll tell you, this purpose is non-negotiable. It's the reason we're here. It's the fire that propels us through adversity. It's the beacon that guides us when we're lost. And yes, it might offend some people when you start to guard that fire more fiercely. So let them be offended. Let them misunderstand. In the end, you'll see who was truly meant to walk alongside you. You'll see who steps up to encourage you, who stands by you when you take risks, who believes in your right to dream without limits. Those are the people you hold close. Those are the relationships that nourish your journey. And so, as we come to the end of this conversation, I want you to recall each type we discussed. Recall the silent damage they can do if left unchecked. Recall the ways you can identify them before they latch onto your life source. And recall the power you have, the absolute right to cut them off. You don't need their approval. You don't need their apology. You only need your own permission to protect what's sacred within you. But how do you move forward, practically speaking? First, take inventory. Who in your life consistently leaves you drained or doubtful? Who triggers a sense of unease whenever their name appears on your phone? That is your sign. Second, decide on the boundaries. Maybe it's less time spent together, fewer conversations, or a complete stop. Whatever it looks like for you, commit to it. Third, fill that newfound space with positivity. Surround yourself with those who challenge you to grow, but never tear you down. Find mentors who inspire you to dream bigger. Engage with communities that share your passion, because if you simply cut people off without forging healthier connections, you risk isolation. You risk becoming jaded. Remember, the goal isn't to become bitter and alone. The goal is to preserve your energy for fruitful relationships and meaningful work. Hold yourself accountable. Sometimes we blame others for negativity, yet we ourselves slip into complaining or doubting or competing. Keep your own side of the street clean. Be the friend, the collaborator, the supporter you wish to have in your life. Because when you radiate positivity, you attract it in return. That's the law of reciprocity. Finally, don't look back with regret. Cutting off people is never easy. There might be memories, shared moments, or family ties that make you question your decision. But if it's stunning your growth, if it's polluting your spirit, you must trust your gut. Remind yourself that this choice was made to preserve your destiny, to expand, not to shrink, to excel, not to settle. That's what wise people do. They protect their energy because they realize they have places to go, mountains to climb, and lives to change, including their own. So here's my challenge to you. Tonight, after this speech, I want you to do one thing that moves you toward cutting off a negative influence. It could be writing down a boundary you'll set. It could be sending that text that politely declines a future engagement. It could be telling yourself, I'm worthy of better. Take that small step and watch how it begins to free you. Watch how your spirit feels lighter, how your mind feels clearer. And once you taste that clarity, you'll never want to go back. You'll realize life is too short to be enslaved by toxic circles. You'll realize you have the strength to stand on your own 2 feet, even if it means walking alone for a season, because that season of solitude can become the season of preparation for the greatness you're about to unleash. And one day, you'll look back and see how these tough decisions became the stepping stones to a better reality. You'll see how every boundary you drew, every connection you severed made room for a future so bright it feels like destiny fulfilled. That's what I want for you. That's what I believe is possible. Remember, this isn't a one-time action, it's a lifestyle. As you evolve, new challenges appear. You'll meet more people, form new alliances, and occasionally encounter negativity in a fresh disguise. Don't let that discourage you. This is a continuous journey of pruning and planting, of releasing what's harmful and nurturing what's beneficial. And trust me, it gets easier with practice. You'll start spotting toxicity sooner. You'll learn to trust your intuition faster. You'll see through facades and discern authenticity from showmanship. And each time you do, you'll reinforce the life you're building, a life guided by clarity, fueled by purpose, and protected by healthy boundaries. That, my friends, is the path of a wise person. You don't scream, you don't fight. You move with resolve. You don't waste energy explaining yourself. You simply act. You don't cling to the dead weight of relationships that can't handle your growth. You slip out of those shackles. And then you run. You sprint toward the opportunities that await. The open doors you've been yearning to walk through. The version of yourself that steps onto the stage of life with full confidence. And when the day comes that you're standing in the place you've always envisioned, accomplishing what once seemed impossible, you'll remember this moment. You'll remember the decision you made to cut off the 5 types of people who threatened your future. You'll remember that sense of relief when you realized you didn't have to carry their baggage anymore. And you'll remember how that decision gave you the courage to seize the opportunities that were meant for you. In that moment, you'll be grateful. Grateful that you loved yourself enough to make the hard call. So don't wait for a crisis. Don't wait until you're drowning. Make the call now with clarity and conviction, because this is your life, and you deserve to live it unburdened by those who refuse to respect your growth. You deserve to wake up each morning excited about what you'll create, not anxious about who might tear it down. You deserve the peace that comes from knowing your circle is filled with genuine allies, not hidden enemies. And most of all, you deserve the thrill of becoming who you were always meant to be. So I leave you with this final thought. Protect your energy as though your future depends on it, because it does. The voices you allow around you will either lift you higher or chain you to mediocrity. Choose wisely. Cut off silently. Let your growth speak for itself. And never, ever apologize for standing in your own light. Step forward in faith. Build a circle of people who champion your success and watch the world transform around you. Because when you become the best version of yourself, you light the way for others to do the same. And that, my friends, is how we change not just our own lives, but the world around us. Now go out there and be wise. Go out there and protect your calling. Go out there and shine unafraid and unstoppable. I'm rooting for you, and I can't wait to see what incredible heights you'll reach next, because I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that once you break free from these 5 types of people, your star will rise in ways you never imagined possible. Keep your light burning. Keep your faith strong, and keep moving forward with a heart full of purpose. The best is yet to come.